How you doing, Bob? Folks here for the Gilly Galoo. Just gonna go out and fill some feeders. Nothing I love better about spring. Obviously there's a change of activities, change of weather, people's spirits change, all kinds of things happen. But one of the things I really love about spring is the fact that all of the sounds change. I was just outside a few minutes ago getting ready to do this, and all I could hear was this male cardinal just singing and singing and singing and singing and singing outside here. So we're gonna go fill some feeders, we're gonna check out the sounds, and then we're going to come back in and talk about a real cool little early spring bird that we had a great discussion on last night on our Facebook page, Friends of Gilly Galoo. You should check that out if you haven't. And it's a great private group where we sit and discuss things. People share some photos, how-tos, what about this, what about that. It's a great group, Friends of the Gilly Galoo on Facebook. Check that out. And we're going to just go out and fill up them feeders. Be back in a minute. Hey, well, there we go. Feeders all filled up. Listening to all the sounds that are out there today, it sounds so amazing when it's spring like that. And we get a rejuvenation, if you like. I know Louise was all excited about her Christmas plant here. I don't know if you can see it here beside me. But we got some nice little blossoms and stuff coming on the Christmas cactus, so she was super excited about that. Be time to get the plastic off the screen porch here behind me, and we can get outside and enjoy some things. But really kind of, we're really getting into the throes of spring migration now. Lots and lots of birds around. American kestrel, blue herons, lots of raptors. A lot of the early nesters are right in the middle of things. Lots of owls being spotted that are working real hard trying to feed some young. So there'll be lots of owl, the barred owl particularly, great horned and things that will actually have owlets now, and are, so they're working really hard to keep them fed. So lots of mice and stuff, and there's lots of snow cover still here in Eastern Ontario. So we're, some of the owls and stuff are congregating around people's backyards, because they've learned and adapted to know that there'll be mice and things underneath the feeders, getting some droppings of the seeds and things from people's backyards. So lots of reports of people coming in and talking about that. Lots of red-winged blackbirds, the common grackles are here. So a lot of the open water areas that we have, and back on our YouTube channel from a year or so ago, we did a bit about ice-out ducks. And there's lots of areas that are seeing hooded mergansers, common golden eyes, all those early birds that are sort of ice-out ducks, as I call them, and they're making their way north to begin feeding. But still lots of snow. We have still lots of ice here on the river, so it's a little bit of a menagerie of where the birds are back, but it's a little bit later in everything opening up. And it kind of brings me to this really cool little bird that I wanted to talk about today. Mentioned earlier about the Friends of Gilly Galoo closed Facebook group. If you want to go check that out on Facebook, by all means, check it out. Request to belong, and administrators will take a look and accompany you into the group. Fantastic group of people that are dedicated towards enjoying the birds, but doing what they can for the birds. And nature and what have you. So we had a great discussion last night. A gentleman put on a post interested in a particular noise that he heard and wondered if anybody could identify it. He played a little video in our group, and there was great responses, and a lot of people nailed it right off. It's one of those weird sounds that you know, but you can't remember what it is exactly. And this little bird is often back early. It spends most of its time in the lower U.S. and down in the Florida Keys and down in open meadow areas and things. Likes its marshy areas, wet soil areas, so damp forest, what have you. Does a really weird kind of a dance thing, and a particular flight pattern that it uses to entice the female at this time of year. And they repeatedly make this particular sound. It's kind of a buzz sound that people often aren't, it kind of reminds you of a peeper or a frog of that kind of nature, or some sort of like cicada type bug that rubs their legs and feet and things together to make their buzzing noise. But this particular bird doesn't do that. It has a really long beak that it probes in the soil for bugs and all kinds of things. And so I haven't said the name yet, and I've done that purposely, wondering if anybody has got it figured out yet, what bird we're talking about. It spends a lot of time in the ground. It nests on the ground. It's a very small, compact little bird. It would sit in your hand very easily. It's not very big. But then there is actually a season for them for hunting. They're considered an upland game bird that migrates back into Ontario in this time of year, and it's in our open fields and meadows and marshy areas. And so it still has a season on it as a bird to be hunted. I remember as a kid that with my dad and uncles and things that would go out for grouse and different birds would also go after to see if they could get American woodcock. Very tasty little bird. It's mostly just their breast. There's not much meat left on anything else. There's no leg meat or drumsticks or any of that kind of stuff, but great little bird. I love the sound that it makes, and let's just play that sound and see if anybody, I still haven't named it, so I'm just wondering where we are with that. And no. Isn't that the weirdest thing you ever heard? Love that guy. And if we haven't kind of worked it out yet, don't know just what it is, it's the American woodcock. A fantastic little bird. You'll note some of the key features for it here, and I'll just get up and kind of show that the markings in particular. It has some markings on the back of the head that are very distinct. It actually goes across its head. Big long beak, as you can see here. It's supple and soft on the end so that it can detect prey in the ground, because it probes in the wet dirt and soil and stuff. So it probes in the ground, and when it hits a grub or some sort of overwintering larva or anything in the ground, it knows that it's hit it. Also earthworms. It loves earthworms. And the little dance that it does, it's kind of this little back and forth movement, this they call it the funky American woodcock. There's a lot of theories about why it does that, but they mostly are believing that it's a vibrational thing, that it does that to entice the earthworms to move. And then when the earthworms move in the grass and what have you, it can see them and detect them. So loves its thicket, open, meadowy, pashy, marshy areas. Has a really weird call that we just played. Has really significant different. It flies and sort of twirls up in the air to impress the females and things. So 4 or 5 or 6 males may cluster together. So if you're outside this time of year, particularly if you have marshy meadow around anywhere near to you, just stop and take a listen, because you're definitely going to hear 3 or 4 or 5 males making this noise. And I want to thank Paul for that, for putting that on our Friends of the Gilligoo last night. That was great discussion and great opportunity to hear and learn more about this little bird. As mentioned, it spends most of its time down in Florida, down the bottom here and around across the bottom of Texas and in those areas, Louisiana, any of the marshy meadowy areas. The bright red that you see there is all of its breeding range, so you can see it's quite diverse across all of upper U.S. and Canada, or well, eastern Canada anyway, and around the Great Lakes and into Quebec and the Atlantic provinces. But certainly Ontario is one of its favorite spots because of the open meadow marshy areas that we have available. It's depicted that it may be declining in numbers a little bit in the east, but from a perspective of Ontario, it's talking about the fact that with lumber industry, so there's one of the positives out of the lumber industry, I guess, is that it's opening canopy and allowing a heavier underground thicket to be available for these guys to flourish a little bit. And as mentioned, they nest on the ground. The male doesn't really do too much of the work. He kind of just gets involved. He doesn't really feed the young or look after the young. The young leave the nest relatively early and are starting right away to learn how to probe in the ground to find larvae and things. Both male and female look alike. The young is a kind of a cute little guy. It's just a fluffy little thing that you'll see on the ground. You might see the female with 3 or 4 of them, not very often anymore, and often just two or 3, but often 3 or 4 as well. So a great little bird. They do a display flight twitter as well, but mostly it's that they make this little chitter noise. Now you'll notice in the background there the spring peepers and things. Makes some weird noises. It's a weird little bird. Love the little guy. It's very colorful, camouflaged in the grass. You often don't see it. It's very compact, as I say, and great bird to go in search of. That's one of the key things, you know. Let's have some fun with this and go out and see if you can find one, and just kind of knock around in the marshy areas, listen and see this time of year, see if you can see it, hear it, and if you can hear it, you can probably find to see it and hone in on it. I want to take an opportunity before we leave here to welcome all the new subscribers to our YouTube channel. I really appreciate your following. Any of you that haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would appreciate it if you did. Lots of new followers on our Instagram account and Facebook pages. We really appreciate the following, and we really appreciate your interaction, and we really appreciate your support at the store, obviously. We have a busy weekend coming up. We're super interested in that. Just looking out the window here, and there must be 20 little common redpolls on the ground where I just filled that standard Squirrelbuster standard feeder there a few minutes ago. Anyway, you have yourself a great day. Thanks for coming into the Gilly Galoo. Thanks for watching in the Gilly Galoo, and we'll talk at you real soon. Have yourself a great day.